another VCR to look at. It's not this one though, I think it's the JDM equivalent of an NVFS1 because it looks just like that. What it is, it's a National AG-3700. It's McLeod Hi-Fi GT4W HQ multiplex video cassette recorder, and it's also S-VHS. So as far as I can tell, this thing is the same as, well, not exactly the same, as we'll see, but very similar to the FS1. The appearance and control layout is the same. The terminals on the back are different though. So let's have a look. It's a very fancy model. Everything's covered up so that it doesn't look cluttered and busy in your fancy living room. Special feet to stand on, so it's nice. You can access the power button, not VTR like it's normally labeled. And yeah, GT4 presumably stands for Golden Technology Forehead, which is written there. Flying Erase Head High Definition System. That sounds exciting. Double Fine Slow VISS Search System. And you get a microphone and a headphone jack on the front there. And then you push this little thing here and the controls open up. And yeah, look at that. Hi-Fi High Definition System GT4W. This linear time counter VHS index search system. I guess that's what that VISS is. Pretty much everything else is in Japanese, since it's, yeah, JDM, lol. Yeah, it's the version that was sold in Japan. It says eject there. There's the eject button. The person who had it before me has kindly written on what important controls are there, ones that aren't obvious with the usual symbols. But it's pretty similar to, it's more or less the same as what we've seen in the past. I have a handy tool now which can help you read stuff. It just converts everything to English for you so that you can understand what it says. Yeah, so it's the usual stuff in there, although not that usual, because I think this is an older version than some of those other FS series we were looking at. Yes, it makes sense if it aligns with FS1, not FS100. Not digital tracking, it's by a knob. There's tape speed, whether it's S-VHS or not. The edit on off, which remote channel it's using. The input selector, time record button, tape counter, the insert editing, audio dub, audio select, TV VTR selection. Then whatever those are, is that the clock timer set thingies? Let's see. Yeah, for setting the clock and doing the tuning, or one touch time recording, then something else to do with somethings. What was that one on the end there? I don't know what that means. Maybe it's not translating very well. It says, it said for a while, channel setting off on 10th place, first place display, forward plus minus. I don't know, maybe the manual will help us with that. The camera is very shaky. Let's have a look in this, because it goes over the control layout. Oh, it is slightly different though. It's missing that, what that thing that said plus and minus buttons down there isn't in here. So it's not the same, it's similar. You can see that more or less everything else is the same as what we saw. So this one here, number 48, what is that? Tuner setup. Okay, so that's, yeah, that was the channel thing. So maybe the other one, it's either slow motion with a speed control. It did say fast forward something, or maybe it's that index search thing. Yeah, that could be what it is. You can see on the back panel here, this has only that much stuff, but as we'll see, there's a bit more stuff on this one. Was that a good enough look at the front? Haphazard look around things as usual. Like trying to see in the dark. Yeah, there's indicators there for whether it's insert editing or audio dubbing. got audio level control sliders there, and then the level LED display. Then there's two other indicators. Oh yeah, whether it's stereo and double? Yeah, whether it's double, whatever that means. Double? Maybe that means, presumably double would mean it's in long play or extended play mode. So yeah, being Japanese, it's 100 volts, not 110 or 120 or 220, 230, 240. It's 100 volts AC, and they nicely provide you an outlet there so you can plug your TV into it and not need extra power strips. Up to 300 watts apparently, which is easy to work out in Japan. Being 100 volts, you know, 300 watts is going to be 3 amps, easy. So there's a bit more I/O there. It looks like, handily written there for us. We get 2 sets of outputs at 1 input, and same for audio, 1 set of inputs, 2 sets of outputs. RCAs, because NTSC region, don't get nice BNC plugs for the video. And then we got S video in and out there. It says use composite. Interesting. And then we got get an NTSC regions separate VHF and UHF aerial connections. And it looks like this will provide 6 volts 30 milliamp to a amplifier, I guess. Amplifier up on your aerial. It used to work. I don't know if it works now. We'll find out. So that's interestingly, this one does not have screws holding the top cover in place, but I don't think that's too much of a sign of trouble. This machine was being used for, I think, someone who was doing duplication or digitizing of tapes for people. So they probably left the screws off so that it was easy to clean the heads if dodgy customers' dirty tapes have been running through it. Here we go, look at that. Is this similar to things we've seen before? Could be. It looks like the earlier models in the G range where the power supply is under the board there. And yeah, I think we've seen something like that before. This extra board with not very much stuff going on. Oh, look at that. Is that what someone was mentioning the other day? An additional transformer that's used for powering the audio circuits. Could be. Could be. In that case, we do need to be very careful about powering this thing from 100 volts, because otherwise you very easily saturate those little power transformers if you try and run them on 120. Yeah, you've got to watch out for that. I remember that last time I was using this, the head was vibrating a lot. Interesting note here. Remember the flimsy circuit board that's attached to the erase head in other machines we've looked at? Here it is again, and it looks like this one has actually been broken off by whoever, and then they've glued it back on and then used wires to replace the snapped tracks. Interesting, so watch out for that, I guess. Right, should we plug this thing in and see what happens? Got a nice 100 volt supply here. Wow, it's 99 volts according to that. 8 watts, wow. Clock's lit up and flashing, it says 1987 on it. Seems to come on okay. Let's put a tape in, although this is a PAL tape. At least we can see if it will start up. Just make sure those shafts haven't gone stiff, because that's a sure way of destroying your tape. Seems to be alright, that's good. Yeah, 37 watts, so it's pretty close to what it said. We haven't been monitoring the power with our other machines we've been looking at. We've been missing out. In that case, let's hook up the video output to it, and we'll see, we'll get an NTSC tape, see what happens. It does not like trying to play the PAL tape, although that's not that unexpected. Already the head is vibrating, so yeah, That's ruined. It's going to need to be lubricated. Now, from memory, this was a NTSC tape recorder with NTSC. Not sure. It is on the pile of recently touched tapes, so maybe. Interesting. It's got the erase prevention knocked out. It's a very high quality Master HG Limited. Means it's going to go into play automatically because it's got, yeah, the thing notched out of it. Wow, unless someone just recorded blue over the whole thing, which I guess is possible. Oh no, look at that. It also looks like the hi-fi sound is working, so that's quite exciting. Look at that, there's the display. Nice tape counter, clock flashing. And we've got the levels there. If I adjust the tracking, you can see the left and right indicators there go out. So it is tracking well enough to get the hi-fi audio. If we put the hi-fi tracking on, then you can see this seems to be very well aligned because the detent position of the tracking control appears to give the strongest tracking. So that's good. And it seems to be running well. So apart from the head being in poor shape and vibrating, this looks like a reasonably good working machine. So perhaps we should be nice to it and not destroy it. I'll check this button. And it didn't do anything. Does it need to be paused? I don't think it's slow motion, is it? It was a search function. Okay, in that case, we need to be in, what was the thing? Memory search. Yeah, so that S has come on. Then, which is by the search mode of the counter there. So now it will lock into forward mode. Now can we push these buttons and do something? Doesn't look like it. Unless that's something for when it's recording. I don't know. Yeah, that's something we haven't explored on the machines, and I think I mentioned it once before, when you can put the counter into memory mode where it will automatically rewind like till it reaches the 0 point, or you put it into search lock mode, which means it will latch into the queue and review modes rather than the usual way, which is when they'll only be active when you're holding them down. You see, this machine doesn't have the review motor in it, so it doesn't get those fancy trick plays, forward and reverse features. And the head is vibrating. So yes, that will need treatment in order to use this machine. As you know, if you wanted to use this machine, it's going to need to have at least the top pulled off and a bit of grease poked into there, but ideally pulled the whole way out and re-greased. Perhaps we should have a go at just greasing the top edge of it and see if that is enough. Just unplug this. Oh, someone hasn't mounted the screw, it's just they used a number 2 for that. It seems to vary between these G mechanism machines, whether they use a number 2 or number 1 for retaining this little discharge band clip thing, because a lot of the other screws are all number 1. Now, the other thing that's interesting is they used a different style of head to hold down, a different style of screw to hold down the head amp. But look at that. Just, well, maybe not quite as difficult, fairly difficult. Not as difficult to undo. Has not seized on or friction welded or whatever that happens to the other ones. Let's see if we can just do that lubrication process from the top here without having to take the whole thing apart. Of course we'll still take it apart, but just for fun, let's see if we can do this work from the top. I guess the most difficult part is going to be shimming the head without damaging it in the process. because there's a lot of heads around this. It's got the flying erase head on it. Okay, see, that's now stuck down because I've loosened off the screws. Okay, and pull this little thingy out, and that will uncover the shaft, and that's the little frost plate thing. There's still grease there, it's just probably pushed out to the side. So let's give that a little bit of a wipe, and then we'll get some new grease. This good Tamiya ceramic grease, and put a little bit of squirt of that in there. We'll pop it back together and play it for a bit and see if it's improved it. Well, I think we need to play it then stop it, because it's when it stops that it seems to show up the issue. Carefully do these screws up until they're all tight. Shims come out, because you got to put the shims in, because the head will drop down when you undo that plate on the top, and can, not always, because I've done it before, someone told me you needed to shim it, it will can damage the tips of the head. They can get snapped off when it pushes down against the fixed lower drum. Head on this looks pretty worn, it's a bit dull looking. Yeah, so you've got to put some thick paper or thin cardboard stuff in there, in the gap, to hold the upper drum up when you're doing that work. Because you might just be unlucky and it's one of the ones where the head angle is such that it will come crashing down and snap it off. Okay. Let's get this thing juiced up again and we'll see what happens. Probably about to explode its power supply too, because of the its age, and I don't know if the capacitors were ever replaced in it. Perhaps we can investigate that shortly when we take it apart. Boxing? The playful variety by the look of it, not the real type. Alright, let's stop it and see what happens. Seems pretty smooth. Maybe that's all it needs. Maybe you just need to take the top plate off, stick a bit of new grease in there, and you'll be good to go. What's the pause like on this? Oh, it's a little bit noisy. Maybe the slow tracking will need adjustment. Oh yeah, get it pretty nice by adjusting the slow tracking just slightly off the detent position. Alright, we'll stop it again and we'll look very carefully what happens to the head. It's very smooth, really smooth. Take a long time to come to a stop. Nice. Perhaps that's all you need to do. Just lubricate the top end, the top part of the head, and you're good to go on these machines. I think it's also worth replacing the power supply capacitors if you're in there. Ah, a relay clicked, which is interesting. Maybe you wonder. No, I was just thinking a relay might be turning that primary that on and off. But no, that doesn't appear to be the case, because even when it's off, when you unplug it, that relay clicks. Maybe it's got a little pre-charge type thing going on. Okay, let's get into this. What do we need to do? Perhaps we'll start by taking a look in the bottom. Yeah, does this have hinges? Doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like this one relies on the front needing to be off. to get the main board out. There seems to be cables in there, but it doesn't seem to have hinges in either direction. But yeah, it's also got this. There's a metal bracket along the back there. Let's take the bottom off first, that will be easier, and then we'll try taking the main board out to have a look at it. I'm wondering if what sort of boards this one's going to have on the bottom. So we've discovered interesting things on the bottom of those other machines. That looks a bit bent. Yeah, this one has proper feet with non-slip on them. That's not non-slip, that's slip feet. These have a much better kind of matte, not too much, slightly fluffy feel. High-end equipment. There's definitely some boards in there. I guess it's got that multiplex decoder. That's what it says, right? Is that? I think that's another type of broadcast stereo. Whoa, look at that. All the good stuff under here. Oh, you can see that disgusting type of ribbon cable thing to connect to the power supply on. Horrible. But we also see someone has soldered it themselves, so perhaps someone has been into the power supply and sorted out the capacitors in there. Yeah, additional heat sinking going on for regulators, some kind of regulators. They look like Darlington transistors. The D2SD1275 is pretty common in these machines. Let's see if these lift up. Bodge on there. Bodges. Vertical board. Oh, that's where that transformer is. S-video connection there. Let's see, does this lift up? It does, look at that. Heaps of good stuff on there. Fortunately, this wiring is in the way of it opening up nicely. It's like the video processing, some amount of the video processing is on there. Maybe that's the extra S-video stuff. Yeah, hot glue, liberally spread around. Wow, it's just bodged on. Look at that. Delay line there is just taped on, double-sided tape. And wires just soldered onto it over to there. That's a bit dodgy, isn't it? That's weird. That's an official thing. It's got a designator. Crazy. Yeah, that is the S-video I/O, because those wires there are coming from the connectors on the back, and they go up to one of those connectors there. So this must be the extra bits and pieces that you need to make S-video, make S-VHS, S-video stuff go. S-video, right? It just needs to separate the composite out. There's normal G mechanism there. Good stuff, works well. Ah, look at that. Off the bottom of that extra power transformer, there's these quite thick and nice flexible wires going into there. Some good capacitors. Then there's blue wires there, which are coming over from these regulators. Well, transistors. Either pass transistors. So there's some Zeners there. So we'll be making a plus and negative power supply, and then that presumably goes off on that wire. Oh no, I get it around the wrong way. Yeah, the regulator's gone that wire. That wire must be the output, which comes along here. It goes into the main mechanism. Good stuff. Let's pull this board off and see what that says. YC there. So I guess that's more stuff to do with S-video signals. It's a bit interesting that just bounces around out there, and there's only 3 screws. Yeah, some extra modules. It's the same type where there's wires coming out the sides and soldering down. And then this one here, this one can open. Extra good business in there. Seems to be quite a lot of high quality wire knocking about in here. All this extra stuff. Oh, they're shielded. They're in blue colored shielded cables. Oh, that's nice. They're all nice and flexible as well, not that hard, horrible insulation that you get on a lot of the wires in these machines. That's interesting. It's like they put care and attention into it using high quality materials. Not like modern cables where everything's gone this kind of hard rubbery stuff. It's very irritating. It just stays all kinked up the whole time. If it arrived kinked up, it's going to be like that for the rest of your and its life. Not very nice. Good quality cables are important. Is this going to be able to go back nicely, or is it not going to go back nicely? I guess I shouldn't have pushed those back in yet. There we go. I don't think we need to take that plate off. There isn't anything under it. Most likely. Just see the boards in there. Sheet of aluminum. Alright, let's get these bits back together on the bottom and then we'll go and explore the top side. What an interesting machine this has been so far. It's got all the good stuff in it. We've already ruined it by getting something in there out of whack. Oh, there we go, that's good. Okay, now we'll put back down this one. Is that a screw? Oh, yeah, it just pushes over a little bit. Okay, let's explore this thing from the top. And probably won't take the front panel off. There isn't going to be much more exciting stuff in there than what we've seen before in other machines. So we'll leave that alone because this is a nice machine and I want to keep it hopefully in functioning order and not destroy it like I've done with some of the other machines accidentally-ish while we've been exploring them. There's a bunch of ground wires here taped down. Another one that goes over there somewhere. Oh, it goes onto the mechanism. Bits of tape that were holding wires together have peeled off. Now there's going to be some screws to undo on the back because the terminal panels will be in there. What? The terminal panels will be attached and need to come up with it. We can unplug the VHF wire, so we won't need to undo that one. Can't tell whether I need to undo that or not. Okay, yep, we do need to undo that one. Do we need to undo that in the corner? Doesn't look like it. Looks like this all just lifts out now. Exactly how and where, I don't know. Probably need to undo that ground wire. Oh yeah, don't drop things in there please. Oh, there it is. I was going to put that back. You don't want that wayward wire just flapping around. Now what? Doesn't look like this one opens up as readily for servicing as the other ones that we've looked at recently. Looks like we need to undo some wires here. Or do we? Maybe it just flips out that way. Once we undo this clip here, that's holding all the cables in place. Oh, so the other ground wire, that also needs to come off. Let's cut that off and see what happens. Not to destroy too much stuff in the process. Yeah, look, that's a big one, so it is restraining some things. Let's untangle under that as well. That cover. That is not very easy to deal with. The Hopefully we haven't ruined any of this in the process. A nice bunch of brown and blue and also grey shielded wires. So I guess this sits here-ish for servicing, although if those weren't tangled around each other. Yeah, that hinges out in the other direction. Wonder what the official way of getting this thing out is. Maybe this would have told us if we would have looked at it. Oh, the VHS system, then the S-VHS system. Increasing the bandwidth. Approximately 240 lines goes to approximately 400 lines. I'm getting sidetracked already. So what do? Yeah, it looks like you do more or less the same thing. Just says opening the PCB. Oh, they pull the timer board out as well. I guess that way you don't have to unplug those two wires that I unplugged. It's quite a process. Power supply. Oh yeah, look, S-VHS PCB on the bottom and luminance and chromance separation board. So those are the two boards we looked at. Hi-Fi audio board, so that's that one. It says there. Oh, that's it. Okay. Yeah, so you just lift it out like that. There you go, done. You'd think that would come out a bit better. And also, how do you get to the... You can't easily look in these boards because that hinges out in this direction. Like that. Yes, unfortunately we're not going to be able to see much of it because I don't want to unplug all these wires and in order to get this thing out any further. Let's just unplug them. Presumably they're different number of waynesses. There we go. There you go, there's the Hi-Fi audio board. Just have a look in there. Oh look, we can peel that over to the side. There you go, Hi-Fi audio stuff in there. So that means those blue wires, the little single strand ones, are coming in there. It does look like it's got high quality parts on it, like you expect on audio boards. Don't know how I'm going to edit out all the faffing around with this. But yeah, there's some... That's the audio board there, Hi-Fi audio, and it's got some... Well, not that you can see. Some nice looking capacitors there. As we've seen in other Hi-Fi audio sections. Yeah, got another thingy there, another thing there. Got the tuners up here, the UHF plugged onto there, VHF. Then under here, got servo stuff's down there on the main board. You can see the heatsink there for the capstan motor. Normal audio is down on the main board. Then we've got some video stuff up here. Oops, did that hook on something? And then the power supply down there. And you can see there is these wires coming out of it, which are the AC out, going over to this extra transformer there. So that's pretty exciting. Alright, does that do this thing justice without destroying it? Have we destroyed it? Probably not. So let's see if we can get it back together safely. Yeah, this one doesn't look very convenient to service. The other ones have been pretty nice. Or there's wires getting caught in the posts now, not letting this board clip back in. Oh yeah, there we go. How many wires did I unplug from this? I think it was only 3. Goes in there nicely. That all tucks away down in there. Does something and it gets out of the way. Not sure what that is yet. Those there. See why there was a cable tie in to hold those up out of the way. So that was all out of the way of it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Was all that stuff supposed to be on the other side of that post? Don't know. I was wondering, should we have a look at that transformer? There's not really going to be much in there, it's just a transformer, right? It's just a transformer. It says a 15 volt 11 VA. Yeah, 100 volt to 15 volt. Okay, we'll start putting this stuff back together. Oh, that's nice. Nothing is squashed. Of course. That's the ground wire. Went to the head amp. Well, the mounting hole of it. Yeah, so not the most serviceable, but a nice machine nonetheless. Whatever that means. Is that the right screw to go in there? Yes, so there aren't any others. They're all long ones. I don't know, I just feel like that's bulging out of it. I've packed too much stuff into there. Probably is a bit. To a degree. Okay, we're going to give this thing a final test. See whether it survived that. Hope it did. And that'll be us. Let's see. Carefully plug this thing back in. Okay, power's up. Put back in our master HG tape. Only the best quality stuff for this. Oh, yeah, it looks alright. That's good. That's a relief. Look at that. Guess what we should be using is the actual National? Unfortunately, I haven't got a National one. Well, I do, it's just not accessible right now. Look at that. New, never opened tapes. There's an NTSC version, the T120, and then the PAL version, the E180 super high grade premium standard. There are also some nice hi-fi ones, but I don't think I've got one of those. Hard to come by that stuff these days. Probably wasn't that easy to come by back then either. Only the good stuff. Oh, look at that, that's dodgy. One of those has fallen out. Wonder if that was wayward. It's like a little split washer. If that was wayward and just like in there from some other thing that happened, or has it actually fallen off and should really have been attached still? Okay, we didn't learn the lesson about putting screws on the panel after that disaster last time. Alright, what machine are we going to look at next after this? Is it an AG-3700 maybe? Maybe. Something else that's pretty high end. I'm pretty sure it's HD something or other. Also pretty sure it doesn't work. Used to work. Everything used to work. Good test of it. Tip it upside down while it's running. Shake it all about. Be careful, don't reach in there while it's plugged in. Oh, it's only 100 volts. Yeah, don't touch it though. Oh, interesting, the tracking is slightly off now. I need to turn it slightly past the detent to get the hi-fi sound back in. Maybe it's warming up a bit and the old capacitors are grumbling. Right, there you go. That's a look inside an AG-3700 National brand, because it's from Japan, not Panasonic. Kind of similar to an NVFS1, but not exactly the same. Stay tuned for next time. We'll take a look at another VCR. Another exciting VCR. wonder if YouTube will like that video that we were playing. Didn't like the other ones we played recently. Till next time.